Welcome back to another video, and today I will be doing my review on the Unearthly Cosmetics Dreamer palette. Another exciting indie palette review. So today I will be reviewing the Unearthly Cosmetics Dreamer palette, and this was their kind of I think, holiday slash change of the year palette that they came out with. I think they announced this in December, and depending where you have gotten this from, I think they shipped it somewhere around like January. Or if you ordered, for example, this from Monolith Shop, then it might be that you got this somewhere around January, February. But yeah, I got mine on the Monolith Shop, as I said. So Monolith Shop is a European retailer for quite a lot of these popular US indie brands. And I think first it's quite important to make note that with some indie brands, Monolith, the price, there's sort of quite a big price hike compared to if you would order them from the brand's own website. But if, for example, I would order something from US, I would then have to pay higher shipping fees, and I would have to pay value-added tax when the product comes into a country. So with Monolith Shop, there is sort of like, because they ship within the European Union, they have accounted all those costs for. So that is why some of the palettes, not all, but with some of them, they are like more expensive if you order the individual item. But about the palette, so this is what she looks like, and here are the insides of it. And I will post after this sort of short introduction, there will be a short swatch video, and then we will go through the sort of review part. But general information, so this has 12 shades altogether, and this has an equal ratio of matte to matte and shimmer shades, which is a plus for me because I'm a person who prefers having like a 50-50 split. So there's the palette has that going for it. I think about the price point, and now I have to actually look at my notes. So I paid 67 euros and 50 cents from this, plus there was the shipping fee because my order didn't go over the 100 euro threshold that Monolith Shop has for free shipping. Something I think you should know as a background, so this is me sort of, and it's gonna be in the title of this video, this is me giving the brand a second chance. So this was one of those brands that was really, it got a lot of buzz, especially when Monolith Shop, I think, announced somewhere in the beginning of the last year that they would start stocking Unearthly Cosmetics, and a lot of people were excited. And in this first sort of bigger stock, there was quite a lot of also like Unearthly's like older palettes, and then I think there was like one or two newer ones. And from that older, like from the like original launch of the brand on Monolith, I got two of their sort of 9-pan palettes because I had seen so many like YouTubers review the Unearthly Cosmetics brands, and a lot of like it was quite an hyped brands amongst the indie community. And I had two palettes. There was the Fairy Frolic palette, and then there was the Sleepover palette. So the Sleepover, I think, was one of their Valentine's releases a couple of years ago, and the Fairy Frolic is one of those palettes that did get the brand popular. And unfortunately, I was quite disappointed with them. So I had to pay for the 9 pans 37 euros and was it 50 cents? Yeah. So I had to pay from each 9-pan 37 euros and 50 cents. So that was like almost paying like 40 euros for a 9-pan. So my expectations were quite high, and because the brand had a lot of hype. And unfortunately, both of those palettes have been palettes that I have since decluttered, so I wasn't a fan of the formula, at least back then. I do think their matte formula was actually quite good. It was nicely pigmented and it was quite blendable, but especially the shimmer shades were very disappointing, especially considering the price that I had to pay from them. So that is sort of where I'm going with the brand in this review, and the reason why I now, after quite some time, had the sort of courage to now like order from the brand or a palette from the brand again was that I saw that with their fall palettes that they came out with, there seemed to be an upgrade in their shimmer formula, and because the shimmer formula was the formula last time that I didn't like, I thought that, well, I might as well give them a chance, and I really did. The color story of the Dreamer palette was really appealing to me. But yeah, that's a long sort of introduction to this review. Now you're gonna be seeing the swatch video quickly, and then I will start going through how I feel now about their current formula. Okay, so let's start. I think I will start from the mattes. So, from the matte shades, as you saw from the swatches, and yeah, as you can see from here, there are a bit more this what I would call a more colorful matte. So we have some pinks, there's some purple, and then there's this dark blue. But then we have sort of more neutral toned mattes. There's this dark brown here, gray shade here. This Muse shade here, it's a bit like an in-between shade. It is like a bit of pink, but it's quite like muted pink. Similarly with the similarly, I think this corresponds quite well with the shimmers, but we will talk about that later. Altogether, I would say that as a cohesive palette, I do think, I will tell it like right now, I do think the shimmers and mattes go quite well together. I think the color story of this has been very well thought out. But regarding the mattes were the thing that I did like from the brand previously. But unfortunately with this one I do have to say, especially as someone who likes their eyeshadow to be a bit more on the pigmented side, but they still have to be blendable, especially the more colorful shades, so this light pink shade, this darkish purple shade here, and then this navy sort of dark blue here, they are very sheer. You really have to build them quite a lot, and with sheer shades then you would think that, oh well, at least they're blendable. However, what my issue was that especially these darker two shades, they weren't like, you had to build them quite a lot, but they weren't that blendable either. So unfortunately from the matte formula of this, I have to say I am not exactly sold on it. The more neutral shade, this gray one here, and the sort of dark brownish here, they work quite well, and I didn't feel that I had as much as issue. But with the more colorful shades and this lighter pink, for example, I had to layer and layer this over, and as someone who has a quite fair skin, that's usually even a quite mediocre like lighter shadow builds quite easily. But with this one also I felt that I really had to do quite a lot of building, which is something that usually from these kind of indie brands I'm not used to. So I would say altogether from the like matte shades, of course, because there's been quite a big gap from the palettes I tried from them, the 9 pans that I tried from them originally, and now with this one. So I don't know, has there been a change in the matte formula as there has been on the shimmer one. But so far I'd say as a conclusion from the mattes, not my favorite part from this palette. And now I think for the shimmers. So with the shimmers, as I said, those were something that I was quite unimpressed with the original palettes that I tried from the brand. And with the shimmers, I'm happy to say that there has definitely been an upgrade here. These aren't like, I'd say, and also considering that I did pay like over 60 euros from this, they aren't like super multi-chrome shade. This one, the dark purple fantasy shade, and then this sort of dark like silver here drift, these sort of have a bit of an, I'd say they're not duochromes, there's a bit of like an holochrome element, which is now a quite popular thing with indie shimmers. There's like a holochrome element to them. But most of the shimmers, they are like very sparkly, but you don't get like super like strong shift in them. Something that I was perhaps like meh about was that the pink shade Imaginary and this tranquil shade here, which is sort of lilac, those were more like toppery-like shades. You can build them to a full opaqueness, but I would have maybe wished that they would not have included because these are also something that will look a bit similar on the eyes. So I can I'm not a fan of topper shades if there's like one in the palette or two in the palette. However, if they're for example two very close kind of shades, then that's usually not something that I prefer. But overall, like the shimmers, they are very beautiful, and there's a lot of sparkle to them. And with the shimmers, I'm happy to say that this is a shimmer formula that I would actually pay the indie price premium for compared to the shimmers on the previous 9 pans that I did try from the brand originally. So, but then when I have to make a comparison that this was an over 60 euro, this was over 60 euro palette for me, and is this how this goes with something else? For example, if I would think some of sort of European-based indie brands like Gloss Gods and Glam Shop, that I can get sort of similar indie shimmers, and those palettes actually are even a bit cheaper. So maybe compared to those, are the shimmers should there be more in these shimmers, and is it enough that they're just a bit sparklier than earlier? I am a bit on the meh in terms of that, because I do feel that maybe with this price we should still get maybe a bit more, even though the shimmer formula now is quite good. But yeah, I think that was like my thoughts on the shimmer formula of the palettes, and now I will sort of give my final conclusions about this one and how I feel about the brand now that I tried it after having a long break from Unearthly Cosmetics. So how do I feel about the brand now, considering that this was now giving the brand a second chance? I'd say despite that I may have sounded critical, I do think that if the brand comes out with another color story, and if maybe they might work with their matte formula a bit more in the future, then I could be tempted to buy another palette. However, this isn't going to be like now one of those brands that I will immediately want to buy everything, because as I said, there were also quite many things that I still felt were lacking, especially considering the price point and considering like what other things are available to me at the similar price point that I have to pay from this palette. I think that because I did actually check on Unearthly's website how much these would like cost if you would order them from States, and then if you just order this like brand within the US and you only then have to pay for like shipping fees. The price is a bit lower, of course, because then you don't have to account for like the import cost of importing it from outside the States. So I think for someone in the States, and if you are willing to like wait for all the hassle which usually comes with indie brands, that there's pre-orders and then you usually have to wait for a while and then the shipping can still be a bit more expensive than from maybe some more established brands. But maybe if you're buying this brand inside the US, I do think it could be a good brand to sort of getting your feet into the indie sort of palettes, because this again isn't like, especially if you buy them like from their US side and you're shipping within the US, then I think the price it's like on the cheaper, well, not cheaper end, but more on the inexpensive end. But as someone who, as I said, because what I paid for this was the 67 and 50 euros, and because there are like other things under that price point and within that price point that, especially amongst the indie palettes, are maybe a bit more, how should I say, interesting, then maybe considering that this isn't the brand that I will be like super excited for every release. But I do think that there was definitely an improvement, and I'm not, despite maybe having bit of an issues with some of the matte shades, I am quite happy with my purchase, and I do think the color story, and I will give it the brand a credit that I do think that color story of the palette has been thought out quite well, and I feel that it's quite easy palette to come out like different kind of looks with, because in the way that the shades are sort of combined within the palette. But yeah, that was sort of my thoughts on this palette. Certainly comment down below if you have bought this, how do you feel about it, and especially have you faced similar issues that I had, and how do you feel maybe that the brand's formula has been developing in the last couple of years. But if you like this video, I'd be really happy if you subscribe to the channel and push the like button, and if you want to get notifications from my future videos, then ring the bell. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope you're having a good day wherever you are, and I hope I will see you again soon. Bye bye!